It's like, why are you pretending to be dumber than you are? Or like you're not dumb. Why are you pretending to be dumb to make this guy feel better? So he like you start oh god my man my man some random guy you just
They're
met.
trying
I'm
to
like,
boost
yo,
the other person's ego and
so
kiss ass here to get
yeah,
what they
everyone's
want.
kissing like
Welcome everyone. Welcome to Soul to Soul. Today we'll be talking about expectation of an African parent on education. And with me today I have
Ola.
and
Danny.
so we're actually talking
Back
about
at
the education
education?
expectation
Is that all?
of typical African parents
Yeah.
and how it changes when you are in the diaspora, you know, and how it changes with generational differences, you know what I mean. So what we're trying to discuss today, that like normally in Africa or in Nigeria, which we come from, there's an expectation as a parent that my kid will be a lawyer, will be a doctor, they have to go to uni, or they have to have their bachelor for them to be successful.
Yeah.
Then when you now come down to the diaspora outside the country, do you still have that expectation? Does it really still worth it? Or what are the things that we're supposed to change about that perspective and where the world is going at the moment?
I feel like personally, I feel like it depends what situation you're in, especially like economically. If your parents are like, let's say you live in like a very low socioeconomic area and you have like no money, I feel like that's the kind of not right per se, but you should be leaning towards that for your kids because you want them to be like, to be the first person to get out of that situation. And it's like a clear-cut path. And even though it's not going to make them most money, it could still, but most likely not going to make, like, you're not going to be a millionaire. You're still going to have like a clear path to succeed.
Yeah, I think I can resonate with what you just said,
Yeah.
because that actually related to my own side of upbringing. Because when I look at it, my parents are not an average I didn't come from an average family. I come from a family that I raised from the grass, sort of like that. And growing up in the environment which I was brought up, I knew that the only way, or my parents thought that the only way that we can get out of poverty is for us to go to uni, is for us to study. So, and if we look back now and look at those people that we grew up together, I can see that works for us.
Yeah.
But coming over or migrating here to Australia and looking at what is going on, I realized that I have so many potentials back then that it's more than what an education could have been. And in the choice of what I study compared to my potential is a bit different. So coming to Australia also is all about like finding a survivor. What can I use to stay? What can I study to be accepted in this environment? But what I found that is different between my parenting and my parenting is that I feel that individual person have their unique gifting, and when as a parent, where you can identify what your kids giftings are, you can now use education to support that and let them achieve their dreams. I think that could be a better way to lean. What do you think, Danny?
I'll say I resonate with what both of you said, and I can see where you're coming from, but I believe it's just in the African or where we're coming from, it's the difference is a system that doesn't work and a system that works in the Western country. In Africa, it's three things. It's either they see education as a crucial pathway to success, financial stability, or family honor. So for a person that comes from a well-to-do background, they still want you to have education, not because they want you to be financially stable because there's money there already, but they want that family honor, that connection, that.
Oh, my son does this and that.
And like what she said, like where she was coming from, it was a crucial pathway for success because you had to bring that family out of poverty. And for some people, they've got some money, but it's a crucial way for financial stability. But when you come down to a Western country, it's a system that works. There's a lot of flexibility. It's more holistic. It's more child-centered and more student-centered. It's about what do you want to do, about more creativity, innovation, because where I work, like a lot of people don't even have a BSc degree because you don't need one to actually get to that self-actualization. So I feel it's just a system that works and one that doesn't.
With like education, I feel like it's also like what you do is heavily dependent on the knowledge you have about things just in general. Like right now, even in Nigeria, that you can see like more social media guys popping off and all that. It's because like more information is available now, like
Yeah.
more than ever. Like all you need is a phone, and you basically have every single information you need to go anywhere you want. So like, for instance, let's say you're living in the 1960s or something, and you have no idea what, like, how much you can make as a presenter, a news presenter. You would never like think of like that as a viable option to be like, oh, I want to do this. I want to become a news reporter in this place. But like nowadays, you can see, like, you want to see the richest people in the world and what they do, just search it up. You can see what they do. You can see what brings in the most money, the easiest way to make the most money, how you can achieve that path. And I feel like back then it was heavily dependent on like your parents' knowledge about the world, because that's the only place you get knowledge from. Your parents, school, libraries. You can't really just pick up niche interests out of nowhere. You need someone that already has that interest and passes it on to you. But now, like, even like with me and my siblings and everything, my mom, obviously, she doesn't know anything about trading. She doesn't know anything about social media influencing. No, I'm not saying it's not good. It's not good, but like, you don't know anything about like trading, social media influencing. I'm not like waiting for like, mommy, please, can you show me how to do this? You just see people doing it and you be like, oh, this is really interesting. How do you do it? And you go up.
And I think the other thing that I feel fascinating and changing is like looking at what you said about the social media and how it's actually another institution on its own, another educational institution. Because when we talk about education, it's all about knowing, like liberating or information or skill wise. That is what education is all about. Education nowadays doesn't need to be taught in an institution like a school institution. But back then, during my own time, like I'm not saying my time is past, like saying in the early 80s or saying in the 90s, education then is when you go enroll in a uni, sit down there and learn it. But now you can as well go online and say, oh, I want to learn about this, or use your phone, I want to learn about that. And that is actually an education. And what is important is your interest. So what are you interested in? Compared to our generation, that even if you don't have an interest in it, your parents are ready to pay you to go to school, to sit down there, to study. At the end of the day, you finish and you were lost. You're like, seriously, I have the certificate, but how do I get here? I don't really know. And in this environment that we are, the difference between the first world country and the third world country now is they actually gone before us to actually understand that skill is more important than you sitting down in an environment and learning. Like when I got to here, when I migrated, I was like, when I see people that maybe a woman that has a master degree or a PhD and you're just married to someone that is a carpenter, I was like, wow, back home,
that's
status, like society, the whole community will talk about you, man. Okay, look at you, you are a doctor in physics, and now your husband is a carpenter. So those status, which you mentioned, which is acceptance in the community, some people go to uni because they want to be accepted, they want to belong, but they didn't go because they want to liberate their own world of information and build their own future. So my question will now be, what would be your advice for parents that still feel that their kids has to go and be having masters in this, BSc in that? What do you think?
So I feel like, from my point of view, like those parents that do that, they're still like right in some way. Like it's providing like a structure, it's providing this and that. But you should know your kid firstly. If your kid's like, because we had this one chick in my grade, she was like top of the grade. And then grade 10, she just dropped out. I went to go do like something else. I forgot. I think it's like fashion designing or something. But she had an agreement with her parents, like, oh, if I do this and this, and I can prove to you that. Well, I'm just assuming now. I'm just assuming. But I'm just like from the reason for what I've heard. I didn't talk to her directly. I was like, oh, what'd your parents do? What this that? But from what I heard, it's like she made an agreement with her parents, like, oh, if I do this, if I do that, can I do what I want? Like,
but saying that, having a kind of an agreement is not to an African parent. You know what I mean? Yeah, because it will be a bit of you said it actually, that you have to know your child.
Yeah.
So in that relationship, there's a trust in there.
Yeah, you have to trust your child.
And your child has built that trust.
Yeah.
But basically, for being an African parent, sometimes, you know, there's always this sort of cultural differences, and they tiptoe your way, or they were like, they don't want you to question, or they don't want to have a dialogue. They just wanted to do that and do that, and that generation is fading off gradually, as you can see it. It's actually fading off. Now people comes on a round table and look at their child and, hey, how can I come in? How can I help you? And I can also acclaim that to the works of social media too, because parents can see like what we're doing today. We're just talking generally, like say, to see what the change has been over years compared to, like, we can't say what educational system is last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago is what it is now.
Yeah, like even 2 years ago, 3 years ago, is so much more different than it is now. Because I work at a school sometimes, for like coaching and stuff. And like I was in school like what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? No, 2 years ago. And it's so much different. The kids are so different. Like, it's not like, I feel like kids are so much, like, they're tapped in to like what's happening. And I saw this thing like on my phone like today, I think it was today, early today. And there was some guy talking about how Gen Z is like going to be less motivated and less hardworking and less knowledgeable because of the phone. And then I was like, I don't know if I agree with this guy, because it's not like, I understand like there's like a high rate of Gen Zs being like, oh, I don't want to work for this institution. If I don't want to work, I don't have to work. But I feel like instead of seeing that as like, oh, they're gonna fail in the future, I'm like, from my point of view, I'm like, these, like my generation, these kids, they realize, they're like, yo, why am I working for some guy that's gonna make 10 times more than me, and he expects me to work hard for him? They want me to work hard and diligently, so your company can make more money, you can make money, I'm getting 10 cents. It's like, kind of like, everyone's more tapped into that reality, even like politics. You hear like a 13-year-old kid talking about Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, and you're like, what do you know? You don't know about policies or anything. But kids are more tapped into everything. They're like, they care about the way they, I feel like it's like a little bit like, it's getting better now. Like 2 years ago or a year ago, kids are always like on like far left. They're like, oh, gay rights this rights this, and I feel like that was a push against like the rebelling against society and like the standards. They're like, oh, we don't want to do this, we're gonna rebel. But it's coming down now, and it's starting to be like more logical thinking, and everyone's like, why would I do this if this doesn't produce a result for me in the long run?
Then I also, going back to the topic that we're actually talking about today, which is saying that like how African rates education as the topmost of all things for their kids. Like there was someone that was online, I think if you're not familiar with Nigerian sort of stuff, but no, okay, I'm sorry. But because I know you might not know this person. So there was a little bit of an interview from Daddy Freeze and Egungun Be Careful.
I have no idea.
So that was what I said. So there's this guy called Egungun Be Careful. He's one of those Nigerian
he does
social media, and he dances and he does one of this. He's a skit maker, and Daddy Freeze is one of those skit makers. He does his own online thing too. And they were talking about how he was in uni back home in Unilag studying biomedical or something, and he dropped out year 2. And when he dropped out, and he didn't know what to do, and he was working fine, paying stipends from here to there, from there to there. Then he pumped himself into social media, and from social media is now a multimillionaire, and he actually recruits some of his classmates when he was in school that has 2-1. 2-1, close to first class.
2-1.
Yeah, that's the second grade to highest grade after you finish. Let's say you have a distinction, higher distinction. So he has 2-1.
That's a B instead of
B. Like 3 of his employee have all of them 2-1, and the guy asked them that, is that 2-1 is the criteria for you to recruit? And I said, no, 2-1 is not a criteria for me to recruit, but this is my guy. I just feel I should help. So I now said there was a very important question they asked, that do you think education is important more than any? Now said, men, if you go and study from one uni to another uni and you have highest degree, if you don't have a skill, there is nothing.
Yeah.
So now brings us back to, why is it that African parents want their kids to go to uni to study? Is it for the kids, or is it for their social status? So they can say among their friends, oh, I have a university graduate, I have a BSc, I have a master. What do you think?
I would say time is evolving, things have changed. So like you said, what would be the advice to give to African parents? It's going to be a reflection.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, change is inevitable, so they have to be updated and they have to be more creative. Because like you said, education is not about going to a physical institution. You can get education from everything, because what you're talking about, skills is part of education. So there's one saying I've always had as a little kid: the only thing that can stop you in life is yourself. But back then, that was a lie, because there are so many things that can stop you from yourself. You need connections, like different things, different barriers. You need cash. There are so many things that can stop you.
It will stop you.
But actually now, it's true. The only thing that can stop you is yourself. So if you want to be extraordinary, you have to have something valuable to stand out. So what makes you stand out? So that should be the conversation you should be having with your child. That genuine conversation. What do you want out of life? And if you really want to stand out, you have to be able to sell something valuable to it. So it's not about hard work anymore. It's about working smart. Yeah. So we have to be more creative and innovative on what sort of conversations we have with our kids. And knowing your child.
Sorry to cut you there. The other thing that is very important now is, back then, that our parents would come and tell us story that, oh, look at that person, he's now a doctor and he has that and is rich. You know what I mean? No one can deceive anyone nowadays. If I'm telling you that, oh, if you study engineering, you're going to be the richest person, you're like, Mom, you're actually wrong. Google search it. How much is this earning? And you can say, look at that. If I am a social media influencer, I tend to earn more than being this. But the bottom line is, even as a parent, you have to be well informed for you to be able to guide your kids, because these kids, even as little as a 6-year-old, have more facts and figure than you. So before you can tell them what you're saying, you need to know that you actually have an information enough for you to pass it, to be able to lead them.
Can I give you an example? Just like you're saying, you said, oh, this doctor, this lawyer. Look at Elon Musk. What did he study? Yet he has engineers, doctors, he has like top people that went to have PhDs, doctorates and all of that with high distinctions working for him. So it's just about having something that would sell, that is sustainable, that wouldn't go. So you have to be creative. So that's like checking deep down. What is that thing that makes you stand out? What is that thing you're able to bring out that would sell for long?